book is not like that.
Daniel, let me make it my own. It's Midsummer. Let me have a little whimsy. The other option for Midsummer is that I burn you alive in a bear costume.
Yeah, okay. No, I've never seen that. No, it's been spoiled. Thank you.
Welcome to Save Me From My Shelf, a literature podcast where we take classic tomes off their pedestal to make you less anxious about reading them. Our jokes come from a place of love and for a specific teaching purpose. However, if you think that making fun of great literature, and maybe some mild swearing, is offensive, this might not be the podcast for you. Hello, you are listening to Save Me From My Shelf. Skittles on the green over here is Daniel.
Skittles taste the rainbow. Zabby.
So this is a reminder that here at Aston University, where Daniel and I teach, we have some modules and degree programs that you can sign up for. We have an undergrad in English, and we now have a brand new MA in English. And Daniel and I also have a Patreon. So if you like the show, you want to throw a few extra pounds our way, or dollars, or whatever your currency, we do have that available. We provide some new content for you monthly, and then every other month you'll get either a gag reel of all of our funniest outtakes.
I hope you have a good gag reflex, because these are hilarious.
I could see that joke forming and brewing. It was like you were about to throw
It's revolting, isn't it?
And then alternating with that, we have a Save Me From My Shelf book group.
Thanks to all the current patrons as well. You
Yes.
get my personal thanks. That's another bonus. So if you're listening to this and you're not a patron, don't listen to that. Close your ears.
Yeah, that's not for you.
That's not for you.
How dare you?
Freeloader.
So, Daniel, what is our text today?
It's the 1590s. And the superior globe is subject to great vicissitudes and mutations. It's a time of conquest and empire. The Mughals, the Ottomans, the Ming and Habsburgs are hell-bent on dominion over the globe and all that it inherits. England herself, that sceptred isle, has only recently avoided invasion at the hands of the Spanish. But the greatest of vicissitudes is that of sects and religions. These orbs rule in men's minds most. All Christendom is being rent asunder by discord, heresies, and dogma. Lord, what fools these mortals be. So, it's a good time for a play about fairies. That's it. We're doing a Midsummer Night's Dream by Shakespeare.
That set the scene was absolute pants.
What's it? What's wrong with it?
It didn't really set the scene very well.
I had two other ideas. One was about me having a dream where that I had to play Donald Bain forever.
That would have been funny.
And another one where I was saying that Shakespeare's so good that when he describes a dream, it's not boring.
Again, that would have been funny.
Whereas instead, I did a riff on Francis Bacon, which is what that was.
Okay. I just want you to know, this is why I have to go to court-appointed anger management classes. This and the lack of measuring worth. So, it should go without saying that we are going to spoil this text for you. In terms of the content, this is a pretty lighthearted one, but there is, a bit of an undercurrent of some darker stuff. We definitely drug people in this. Not Daniel and I personally, but one. There's some potential pedophilia and sexual abuse readings. It's not explicit, but we are going to get into that a little bit. Bestiality, threat of execution, forced marriages, stalking, sort of. Lots of domestic fights and insults, lion attacks, and suicide. So, would you like to do some background for us?
Sure as shit.
Excuse you.
Sorry.
Rude.
That just completely just popped into my head just then. I thought, why not? Why the hell not?
I like this for you, this new vulgar, crass Daniel. You're like a frat boy now. We should tack an E on the end of your name. You're Dane now. You're in your Brosif era.
Kegger. Is that something they do? Is that still something they do?
I believe so. I don't know. Frat boys listening, right in.
It's like, we've got 30, 20 stone, in as much as they're all kind of like football players, frat boys in a building, and they're like, oh, you know what would really go crazy if we brought in a solitary keg of beer? That's just like the diet of an English child. And that's why I have jaundice. Anyway, so, back to the background. Shakespeare probably wrote A Midsummer Night's Dream sometime in the mid-1590s. Unlike many of the other plays by Shakespeare we've covered, which are generally modelled after either established legends or historical events or plays by near contemporaries, A Midsummer Night's Dream seems to be an original creation.
That is shocking for Shakespeare. My dude was a big plagiarist. And because it's Pride Month, and this is an otherwise very straight text, I think we should all let loose a big gay gasp that this is an original Shakespeare creation.
Is that gay enough?
That was nowhere near gay. Get the hand in there, clutch some imaginary pearls. You need a lot more bodily movement.
I can't do that. I lack the faculties. I'm not that much of an actor.
Okay, how about just move your shoulders a little bit more and give me a hand? Can you give me one more? That's better. That's gayer. Okay. I'm proud of you.
Thank you. So, having just done all that whole mad thing, it should be said that the play is a sum of various seemingly mismatched parts. Somebody is going to be made up of mismatched parts in this play. Anyway, so yeah, it's a romantic comedy about fractured star-crossed lovers, a classical fantasy set in mythic Athens, a light-hearted satire of Elizabethan popular classes, and a bit of joking about Amdram as well. If you want people to dig the knife into Amdram, this is the play to...
In an updated version, they would be taking the ever-loving piss out of an improv troupe.
Oh, yeah, I never thought that, yeah. And it's all glued together with loads of fairy stuff. So, in this respect, although the whole play is not borrowed from a particular work, critics have pointed to potential origins in its kind of various elements. So these are Greek and Roman myths, as well as Ovid's Metamorphoses, which sort of satirised those myths, from various episodes in the Canterbury Tales.
We've covered it on the show.
Yeah, very good. In themes from just kind of broader European folklore, as well as borrowing from classical and Renaissance philosophy.
This is a patchwork quilt of references that manages to make something actually really quite lovely.
It's like Super Smash Brothers, isn't it? Just have them all together. Imagine if Kirby and Star Fox were fighting. You've just imagined A Midsummer Night's Dream. Anyway, the play's been popular for donkey's years. It's had a kind of long history of various reincarnations. After the big early 19th century Shakespeare revival, Victorians really went in for like the kind of fairy stuff, didn't they? They loved all that. They put on these hugely elaborate productions with hundreds of extras playing mainly fairies. It was really tacky, wasn't it? A multimedia sensation. Productions often use Felix Mendelssohn's famous musical accompaniment, which has that one wedding march.
Yeah, if you've been to a wedding, you've heard this song.
When people leave, normally, isn't it? 20th century productions became sparer and more symbolic. They often played up the kind of psychosexual themes underlying the dream. And in the 21st century, there's been a shift more to looking at how the play might explore or subvert gender and sexuality. Some of the moons of your anus are also named after the play's fairies, as well as creatures from The Tempest.
You actually wrote your anus.
For some reason, that joke still feels so much fresher, just writing your anus, literally. I was like laughing out loud when I wrote that. Your anus.
Daniel, whatever gets you through the day, really. Are you ready to go into fairyland with me, friend? Maybe it is Pride Month.
Although we're also actually going to go by way of Athens, the gayest of the city-states. I'm trying to think of a gayer city-state now.
The Vatican.
Whoa. But officially not, right? That's the thing, whereas Athens officially is.
I'm Catholic, I can say it. Yeah. Continue.
Act 1, Scene 1. Standard. Theseus, the Duke of Athens, is talking to his fiancée, Hippolyta, about how excited he is for their wedding. Hippolyta is not so much excited, is she? She does not want to marry this guy. Why do you think?
She's unprepared? Hasn't picked her bridesmaids?
I think that might be a factor, yeah. I think she might want to hang around her bridesmaids a bit more. Because she is a cool Amazon from the mythological tribe of warrior women, if you know. Not Jeff Bezos. Something like that going on. She's a mythological tribeswoman. The reason they're getting married is because Theseus managed to best her in battle and is now forcing her into marriage. Quote, I wooed thee with my sword and won thy love doing the injuries.
Man, he has gotten that all wrong. See, I don't know a lot about love, but everything I do know is from The Sims, And what I know is that the only way to make someone fall in love with you is to talk about llamas 27 times in a row while standing on the sidewalk outside your house.
First thing in the morning.
And then you get married. He didn't do any of that. As a side note, are you implying that Hippolyta is a lady lesbian?
No, I just meant more that she'd rather be hanging around with gal pals. Hoes before bros.
Can we give that a queer reading sting just because it's Pride Month?
I thought they kidnapped men.
But that's just for procreation purposes, not for love.
Okay, maybe, yeah, whatever.
Alright, the wedding preparations are interrupted by this important citizen named Aegeus, who is there to appeal to Duke Theseus for help. Now, Aegeus brings his hot daughter Hermia with him. And I want to be really clear here because there's going to be some confusion later. We need to call her Hermia the 10 because she's very attractive. And the first, 3 female characters in this book all have H names. And so sometimes people get really confused. So Hermia the 10, that's what we're going to call her. So Hermia the 10 is being married off to this young man named Demetrius, who her dad approves of. But Hermia the 10 doesn't like Demetrius. She wants to get with this hottie named Lysander. What's a nickname for Lysander? Would you call somebody Lice?
Yeah, Lice.
Like in Othello, Aegeus says his daughter has been put under a magic spell to fall in love with this evil Lysander. Why else would she disobey her dad? I mean, it surely has nothing to do with Lysander's six-pack and cool leather jacket, am I right?
No, because let me tell you that they don't really have six-packs. That's just their armour, those Greeks. Okay? They're all actually very flabby underneath.
You don't know what he's got going on under there.
No, I know.
Is this from a fanfic you wrote? How do you know this?
I just think those suits of armour, they must be overcompensating.
Hermia the 10 just sort of rolls her eyes at her father, and she's like, you cannot force me to marry that tool Demetrius. And her father goes, no, technically I can't force you to, but with the Duke's permission, I can have you killed for being disobedient. You're my property. I can do whatever I like with you.
The Duke, he's already got one rebellious fiancée on his hands, doesn't he? Women. He doesn't like the mirror this whole situation holds up in front of him, does he? He's like, seeing parallels here, love. Theseus tells Hermia, listen, you dumb broad. This is not a direct quote. If you give us a lot of shit refusing this arranged marriage, the best case scenario is that you become one of the Vestal virgins. You know, those virgins that wear vests. They're sort of like nuns, but from the classical world. Do you want that? And Hermia's like, that sounds a damn sight better than marrying Demetrius, whom I don't care for, as previously stated. So no means no. Nay, as they said back then. Nay means nay.
The Duke says, you know what, we're gonna handle this later, because y'all are gonna ruin my wedding with this crap. When Hermia the 10 and Lysander are alone, they quickly make plans to run away together in the night. A midsummer's night. They're like, listen, we're gonna go to Lysander's rich aunt, who lives 20 miles away, where apparently there are no extradition laws. I don't know. And you just know that there was some sort of 1920s production of this play where Hermia and Lysander started singing Shuffle Off to Buffalo at this point. You know it.
What's that?
You don't know Shuffle Off to Buffalo?
No.
It's a song about either eloping or running off on your honeymoon. And it goes a little something like this.
I'll go home and pack my panties, you go home and get your scanties, and away we'll go.
Off we're gonna shuffle off the Buffalo. Shuffle off, shuffle off, shuffle off, shuffle off, shuffle off the Buffalo.
So then, they run into Hermia the 10's friend, Helena, and we're going to call her, for the sake of clarity, Helena the 7.
What's Hippolyta then? I don't approve of this ranking of people.
Hippolyta's outside the system.
I am the system.
So the point is, Helena's pretty, but Hermia is gorgeous. And Demetrius used to be all up in Helena the 7's business, and then, just like that meme of the guy checking out the girl in red, he completely ditched her as soon as he saw Hermia the 10, despite her not being interested at all. So we have a bit of a weird love rectangle forming. Helena wants Demetrius, Demetrius wants Hermia, and Hermia wants Lysander. Hermia the 10 bitches about how, the more I hate Demetrius, the more he loves me. And Helena the Seven bitches that the more she loves Demetrius, the more he hates her. What dating app is Helena on? Fumble? Cringe? Hermia the 10, she's like, listen, Lysander and I are running away tomorrow night. If you don't blow up my spot, you can have Demetrius all to yourself. Bye-bye.
So, there are 3 main plot lines in this play, and they all intersect. This is the plot line that we're going to call the lovers. That's the one we've covered. Hermia and all that.
Do we need a sting? Do we need a lover sting?
Yeah, I like that. Now we're going to switch to a plotline called The Mechanicals. And this is about a bunch of poor artisans, rude mechanicals as they're called in the play, who have started an amateur acting troupe. This is the ancient Athens equivalent of your plumber telling you about his improv showcase. The rude mechanicals are determined to perform for the Duke's wedding, despite not being very good.
The wedding or the troupe?
Maybe that's why, isn't it? Yeah.
This is what the Duke deserves.
So, there's Quince the carpenter, Snug the joiner, Flute the bellows repairman, Snout the handyman, Starveling the tailor. I love that, Starveling. So, you don't need to remember any of these guys except the star of the troupe.
There's always one.
Bottom, Nick Bottom the weaver. And bottom is important. Bottoms are important, though, aren't they? But bottom in this case is important.
That sounds like something that gay Elmo would say. Bottom is important.
Yeah. The Mechanicals start their play rehearsal, and the play they're working on is, quote, the most lamentable comedy and most cruel death of Pyramus and Thisbe, which is a sort of kind of, Romeo and Juliet type doomed lovers type thing. But instead of a big balcony scene, Pyramus and Thisbe speak through a chink in a stone wall. And instead of taking poison...
They get mauled to death by a lion,
Standard alternative option, isn't it? Lion or poison. Bottom is a bit of an insufferable ham. Some kind of joke there about rump or... I don't know, whatever.
Keep going, you'll get there.
He annoys everyone. He's cast as Theramus.
Theramus?
Yeah, the hermaphroditic. He's cast as Pyramus, the male romantic lead. But he says, yeah, I can play Thisbe too. Ooh, and the lion. Quote, I will roar that I will do any man's heart good to hear me. I will roar that I will make the Duke say, let him roar again, let him roar again. So, bit of an ego, to say the least.
He even wants to play the f***ing wall.
It's going to be like a one-man show.
Give me a single spotlight and a chair I can sit backwards in. I'll wear a black turtleneck. I'll have him eating out of my hand. I wonder if he's like writing a spec script for Walt Whitman and some wires got crossed. Man contains multitudes.
All right. That's quite a highfalutin joke.
Well, you know me, Daniel. I'm a classy broad.
I just like the bit with Flute. Young Flute, who's told to play Thisbe. Quote, nay, faith, let me not play a woman, I have a beard coming. So, we've got one of the few non-cross-dressing Shakespeare comedies, and he's still like, bit of cross-dressing humour, whack that in there. It's guaranteed to get a good chuckle.
Maybe this is a queerer play than I thought. I hadn't really considered Hippolyta as sort of retired lesbian.
And Flute as reluctant transvestite.
We now have 2 of the 3 big plot threads, right? The lovers and the mechanicals. Now it's time to introduce the third, and that's the fairies. This is what the play is most known for. And in fact, some children's productions of the play, like the one I was in when I was 10, cut the lovers plotline entirely, and they just focus on the mechanicals and the fairies.
Who are you?
I played Peas Blossom, and I had one line, and that was, ready? I think, gentle listeners, if I can find some photos of it, and there are a lot of photos, but it's whether I have any of them, maybe I will put one up for this episode of me in the play.
A true treat.
But I want you all to know that I was a lumpen, unfortunate child, and I think I was cast as a fairy ironically by a director who did not like me very much.
It's good to take things like that out on kids, isn't it? Yeah.
Okay, in the forest outside of Athens, we basically get that opening scene in Romeo and Juliet, the one where the servants from the different houses insult each other and get ready to fight. But here, it's the servant of Titania, the queen of the fairies, and they're mouthing off to this fairy guy named Robin Goodfellow, otherwise known as Puck. And he's the manservant and best friend of Oberon, the king of the fairies. Apparently, there is some domestic tension between royal husband and wife, And I just kind of imagine a lot of tense bedtimes where the queen glowers in this beautiful dressing gown and lotions her hands like she's an angry wife in an HBO show. Anyway, the servants are squaring up with each other. They're like, bitch, better get out of my way, bitch. But before they can have like a cool dance-off or something, King Oberon and Queen Titania both happen to walk on the scene at the same time. What's he doing here? And what's she doing here? And they are primed for a fight. They have their shields up. They have the tang of blood in their mouths. It's about to go down like the Anchorman rumble.
Ill met by moonlight. That's what he says.
That's some foreplay. I think they're into it this whole time, actually. They do feel like one of those insufferable couples that's doing a bit where they fight in public just so they can have sex in your guest bathroom or something.
Do you know this? Not you personally, but in the scenario, does one know the couple?
Yeah, like at a party or something.
You just see some strangers having a fight, and then you go home.
So Oberon, like all the men in the play, says, basically, you have to obey me, woman, I own you. And Titania's like, oh yeah? Why don't you tell that to your girlfriend, Hippolyta? Here is some dirt that connects two of these plot lines, right? Apparently Oberon had kind of had a thing with our Amazon warrior.
Amazon Fulfillment Center.
Oh, are you going to be making a lot of Amazon jokes,
No,
Harry?
that's just one that came to mind.
We'll workshop it.
I thought that was alright.
Your proposal has been noted and rejected, and you are welcome to reapply in 6 months' time.
Your joke was lost in transit. It is an Amazon joke.
So, some further tea is spilled when Oberon goes, oh, you think I don't know about you and Duke Theseus? You know what? I'm not sad about their marriage. You're sad about their marriage, Titania. On the surface, Oberon and Titania they say they're fighting about some kidnapped human child that they both want in their courts and, their royal retinues. But it really, really boils down to each of them being left by their respective side pieces. My secret boyfriend is marrying your secret girlfriend. Let's hide it under a smokescreen of who gets to chill with a Shanghai miner. These are both subplots that never get explored in the play. The kidnapped child and apparently both of them stepping out with the Duke and Hippolyta. But I really wish it would. This is juicy stuff. Anyway, that wraps up Quarrel O'Clock. Fuck you, honey, and see you tomorrow.
So Titania flounces off, and Oberon and his good pal Puck decide they're going to get some sweet revenge.
Sweet what?
Revenge. That's a sort of like moron's joke way of saying revenge. And I am a moron who likes to joke.
You're going to get very little pushback from me. Keep going.
Oberon sends Puck on a quest to get a kind of magical love flower that they know about. A flower, quote, where the bolt of Cupid fell, before milk white, now purple with love's wound. Oh, I like that.
Oh, no thank you.
The idea is that if you rub this flower or something on the eyes of someone while they sleep, when they wake up, they'll fall in love with the first person they see or thing. So you wake up, you see the inside of your eyelid, you're in love with it. That's the risk. You've got to hope the opening of the eye and the waking up is completely simultaneous.
So what's Oberon's plan then? Is he going to make Titania fall back in love with him and it'll be sweet and they'll rekindle? Renew their vows?
No. They're going to kindle. That's Amazon. Is that Amazon?
Yes, damn it, Daniel.
Sorry. No, once they have the flower, they're gonna make Titania fall in love with someone humiliating.
Oh.
Sort of like a kind of date rape humiliation thing.
Yeah, this play definitely gets into that.
I love the bit where Puck says he's gonna go and get the flower and he says, I'll spin a girdle around the earth in 40 minutes.
Meaning he can run really, really fast around the world.
Anyway, cut to that evening. We're still in the woods. But now we're back to the lovers plotline. That is the lovers plotline, listener, so just bear that in mind. So Lysander and Hermia have run off. Hermia the 10, the plan has gone ahead. Helena,
the 7,
thank you, narked, however, to Demetrius.
Why would she do that? She's about to be rid of her competition forever.
Because she's so servile that she'll even, it's like how Richard Nixon would drive Pat, before they got married, obviously, whatever Pat Nixon's original surname was, he would drive her to dates with other men. Because he's just like
What?
so insistent. Like, I'm gonna get you one way or the other. I'm gonna get you. That's about Richard Nixon, that song.
You're sending a message to all the Andrew Tates of the world that being a beta cuck actually is a better long game.
Well, you might end up getting potentially impeached, but
He got the girl and became president, and got pardoned by Gerald Ford, so...
Mao as well.
He did good things
You
in
could meet
China.
Mao, yeah, you could meet Mao. Imagine that. Yeah, so now they're all chasing each other through the woods. It's gone crazy. Helena, wait, I'm getting confused.
Yeah.
I'm getting upset and frustrated.
No, you're not.
Okay, Lysander and Hermia, they're in the woods running off, eloping. Meanwhile, Demetrius is after them. And then Helena, she's
Chasing after him.
bringing up the rear. Yeah. So yeah, Helena's all like, love me. And he just kind of keeps screaming at her to go away.
She is messy and relentless.
They're running in the forest right into the middle of the fairies' own drama. So it's a right old mess.
Now let's cut back to Oberon and Puck. We're back with the fairies. So Puck has come back in good time. He's that Amazon workhouse. He's, not taking his... Now you have me doing
Next
it.
day delivery, 40 minutes. It's even better than that.
I was going to say he's not taking his pee breaks. He's peeing in a bottle somewhere.
Yeah.
So he's come back with this magical lust orchid. And Oberon's like, ooh, great. I'm going to take some of the petals of the flower, and I'm going to go handle my bitch wife. But, Puck, I just overheard this wild scene in the woods where there's like this Athenian woman who's chasing this Athenian man, begging him to love her. And I kind of feel bad for this chick. So, Puck, you're going to take the rest of the petals of the flower. You're going to go find them. And when the dude falls asleep, you're going to rub the flower on his eyes so he falls in love with her the next morning, okay?
We've got to have the line, though, haven't we? We've got to have the line when Oberon describes where Titania's having a nap. I know a bank where the wild thyme blows, where ox slips and the nodding violet grows, quite over-canopied with luscious woodbine, with sweet musk roses, and with eglantine. There sleeps Titania some time of the night, lulled in these flowers with dances and delight. And there the snake throws her enamelled skin weed wide enough to wrap a fairy in. And with the juice of this I'll streak her eyes and make her full of hateful fantasies. Good bit.
So we cut to Titania, and she's off in her court, her section of the woods, and she's having a fun little song and dance with her fairy biddies. And they're all throwing their shoes and purses in the middle of a circle. I'm not interested in men tonight, I just want to dance. So, after a few Long Island iced teas, all the fairies settle down and they go to sleep. And this is when Oberon sneaks up on Titania and squeezes some nasty flower juice up in her eyes. And he's like, hey, suck on this, you cow. May you wake up when a proper Uggo is nearby. Night-night.
That's scary, isn't it? Wow. Anyway, let's cut to the other two lovers. Who are they? Lysander and Hermia, who are exhausted and lost as they try to escape to his aunt's house. As they're sleeping, Puck stumbles on him, and he's like, this must be the Athenian hunk and the desperate chick who King Oberon was talking about. They're sleeping next to each other. Nothing funny about that. They must hate each other. Anyway, it doesn't matter. She's so pretty, I can't believe this guy wouldn't already be in love with her. I'll fix it. Yeah, he rubs the flower on Lysander's eyes, not realising that they're actually already in love. So they're going to wake up and be in super love, aren't they?
What does that mean, super love? Do we have a joke for that?
No.
You and I are just...
Line. So, Puck leaves just as Demetrius and Helena stumble on the scene. The other couple, the one he was meant to drug. They're here now. It's a right old mess. Let me tell you. Let's hear what happens next. So, after these messages.
Why are you're signposting your own
I know,
section?
I feel like I'm going mad. I don't know why I keep doing this. They don't see the sleeping Lysander or Hermia. The foliage is just so thick, maybe. Thick with two C's. That's an Abby joke. Doesn't make sense here. But
It's kind of a sexy forest where it could be thick.
you might wake up, look at a bush and fall in love with the bush.
Ooh, yeah, what's that? What do you call that when people are in love with objects? Like, I really want to French my industrial croissant maker.
Don't we all? Anyway, Demetrius screams at Helena to leave him alone, and he runs off. Listener, I think you know what's coming.
Shenanigans.
Yeah.
Jape knavery.
This is the exact moment that Lysander wakes up, and he takes one look at Helena, not Hermia, his current lady friend, Helena,
The 7.
the wrong one, and he falls in love with her. Oh no.
Uno reverse! Puck played an Uno reverse on his heart!
We have a proper love rectangle now, don't we? He starts sweet talking the shit out of her and bragging on his girlfriend, who's right there. He's like, Hermia's boring, she's a raven, you're a dove. Hermia's like a sweet, I've eaten too much of and she makes me sick, etc. Here's the line. Content with Hermia? No, I do repent. The tedious minutes I have with her spent. Not Hermia, but Helena I love. Who will not change a raven for a dove? For as a surfeit of the sweetest things, the deepest loathing to the stomach brings. This is all really weird, out of character. Helena, she kind of assumes that Lysander's making a mean joke at her expense, so she tells him to fuck off, and she walks off, continuing her pursuit of Demetrius. Lysander completely abandons the sleeping Hermia alone in the woods, and he chases after his new object of attraction.
Say it how I wrote it.
His new boo.
It sounds so natural when you say it.
Okay. Shortly after, Hermia wakes up. She's understandably nervous to find her boyfriend gone and to realise that she's alone in the woods. So she runs off looking for him. So the same essential chase is going on, but the order is slightly changed.
We're in Act 3 now, and we've linked 2 of our 3 threads, right? The fairies and the lovers. They're all getting intertwangled. But what about the mechanicals? How do they fit into all of this? Well, turns out they're rehearsing their dumb play in the same forest. Why? I don't know. Clearly there are no free rehearsal spaces left in all of Athens.
A whole society geared toward Amdram, and yet there was only one rehearsal space.
You didn't sign up on the forum early enough in the morning. You gotta camp out for that shit.
There you go.
After a very long and fairly funny scene of them sort of bumbling through the script, Puck stumbles on them. And he's like, yeah, I'll watch this shitty dress rehearsal. I don't have anything better going on. But God, they're rehearsing awfully close to where Queen Titania is sleeping. I hope they don't wake her until somebody really ugly is nearby for her to fall in love with. And then we get a little light bulb moment. I got an idea. So, when the annoying Bottom... Pride Month, we all know an annoying Bottom, don't we? Hey? Hey? We're really forcing the Pride Month thing.
Some of us are. For me, it comes naturally.
So when Bottom goes backstage after his scene is over, Puck, does some magic and transforms Bottom's head into a straight-up donkey's head, like the world's most horrific reverse centaur. And the prefab I wrote is, this is the only instance of Bottom ever half-assing anything.
That's very good. I like that.
Yeah, Daniel, I have several ass jokes to make in this play, so I want you to ration your applause.
Okay.
It takes Puck, no time at all to construct a waking nightmare. So, as Bottom hears his next cue and comes back on stage to say his line, the rest of the cast understandably freaks out and runs away. And Bottom is confused and alone and stumbles into Titania's forest bedroom. And she wakes up and takes one look at him and basically says, nice ass. Ayo, that's my funny joke. Do you like it?
Yep.
Do you love it?
Very good.
Do you like it or you love it?
Maybe with the help of some kind of magic flower, I would love it. I was just thinking, I had just some weird thought, because you said that the Bottom was like a kind of horrible reverse centaur. I never really thought about that him being like an opposite centaur.
Are you saying he got being a centaur ass backwards?
Amazons, like Hippolyta, and centaurs, I think in ancient Greece, weren't they both sort of like symbols of savage outsiders, like steppe peoples?
Amazons, I think, were supposed to be Scythian warriors that would occasionally butt up against the Greeks. And I've heard the centaurs are sort of like steppe people.
Yeah. Out there, women rule the roost, and some people have horse bodies. It's just like that, isn't it? It's crazy over there. But anyway, I just thought that was interesting that there was some kind of secret parallelism between Bottom and Hippolyta.
Back to the plot.
So Titania wakes up, immediately falls in love with him.
She takes one look at him and suddenly it's a Wu-Tang Clan concert up in her underpants.
Don't get that.
You don't have to. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
Keep going.
This confuses Bottom as much as seeing a fairy queen full stop would. Quote, methinks, mistress, you should have little reason for that. And yet, to say the truth, reason and love keep little company together nowadays. That's the theme of the play, though, isn't it? The relationship between reason and love. Anyway, she flatters his beauty, his wisdom, his voice, and since he's already an actor and pretty much of his own, you can say it.
Ass.
His ass is human.
Oh.
He's got an ass on top and an ass on the bottom.
Do you think he actually has, like, a good ass?
Bottom.
Yeah. Does Bottom have a nice bottom? Is he a badonka donkey? I don't... What is wrong with us today? I'm so sorry. I didn't expect that to make you laugh.
I think it's like unremitting, isn't it? These jokes are. Yeah, anyway, he loves hearing this sort of thing. You don't have to twist his arm very hard to get him to start canoodling with this beautiful magical queen who does nothing but compliment him and be a total kiss arse. So she summons her 4 best fairy servants.
Who are they?
Peas Blossom,
That was me as a child.
Cobweb, Moth, and Mustard Seed to bend over backwards to take care of him. I love those names.
Okay, we are in it now. This is classic Shakespeare comedy territory. Everyone is all confused and discombobulated and in love with the wrong people. There's a disruption of order that no doubt will be resolved by the end. We cut back to Oberon, who doesn't know anything about this Bottom situation, and he's wondering if his bitch wife is awake yet and what she could have fallen in love with. Puck stumbles by and he's like, "Oh, boss, do I ever have you covered on that front?" So I discovered this band of working class dudes who think they're these great artists and they're rehearsing a play. And Oberon's like, "Oh my god, you didn't." And Puck goes, No, it's even better. I picked the stupidest, most vulgar, most embarrassing pleb. And Oberon's like, "Ooh, how delicious." And Puck goes, No, it gets even better. I turned his head into a donkey's head. He's some abomination of nature, and they probably can't even French kiss. At least not without making it super weird. And Oberon loves this. He practically giggles and kicks his little legs in delight. Oh, Puck deserves a raise.
Oberon's like, "What about those Athenian humans that I also asked you to intervene in the lives of, please? Did you make the unavailable dude fall in love with the thirsty chick?" That's a Shakespearean line. Puck says, "Well, I found an Athenian man sleeping in the woods, and I did what you asked. I assume he's the Athenian man in question. How many Athenian men could be wandering the woods at this hour, despite the fact you've already seen a whole band of Athenian men rehearsing a play?"
Yeah, that's a point.
Clearly more than one, because at that very moment, Demetrius and Hermia come crashing through the forest in the middle of all their bullshit.
This is Hermia the 10, mind you.
Oberon and Puck hide and watch the fireworks.
There's a lot of hiding and spying on people in this. I didn't know this was a shared universe with Porkies.
Yeah, I suppose it is a bit like that sort of thing, isn't it? Yeah. But they're all like that. They're all about voyeurism and humiliation. Like Twelfth Night was like that too, wasn't it?
Yeah, I suppose that's true. Yeah, lots of ritual humiliation is the way to true love.
Hermia's like, "Demetrius, what have you done with Lysander? I woke up and found him gone, and you're here. Did you murder him?" Demetrius is like, "No, but I wish I had." They have a big fight, and Hermia storms off to look for her boyfriend. Oberon, from the sidelines, says, "That's not the chick I saw before. So who the hell did you drug? Great job on the Titania thing, Puck, but you really messed this one up." Puck's like, "Yeah, that is not the right person." Well, how was I supposed to know how many star-crossed lovers would be running around the woods in the night? Oberon tells Puck he needs to fix it, and he rushes off after Demetrius.
Puck waits until Demetrius falls asleep, and he puts some love juice in his eyes.
Sorry.
Oh,
That's
sorry.
what love juice sounded like. It's sort of euphemism.
You know what? Normally that would be me making that sort of joke, but that was actually completely unintentional. I apologize.
Also, you said it was from an orchid, and as we all know, orchid means balls.
So Puck is on a spree, a roofying spree. So he's like, "Okay, great, that's one down. This is definitely the guy Oberon wanted me to drug initially. Now I just have to wait to find the other guy, Lysander, and have him fall asleep again, and then I can wipe the sort of flower juice out of his eyes, right? And that'll clear that all up. Everything will be as it should be. Probably. Look, this is not an airtight plan. My dude does not run a tight ship."
Eye poison.
Yeah. Ear poison, Hamlet.
Standard mouth poison, I'm sure that's in a play. Have we got any nose poisonings?
Ooh!
In Shakespeare? Does every orifice get its due?
Meanwhile, Lysander is still chasing Helena the Seven, trying to convince her that he loves her and he's not making a joke. He chases her right to where Demetrius is sleeping, of course, and they wake up Demetrius. So Demetrius, who now has the flower juice in his eyes, sees Helena the Seven and falls in love with her. And she's already in love with him, so that's good. Hooray! No more love rectangle, really. We're now back to an awkward love triangle, but now with Hermia the 10 out in the cold. Man, this is so confusing. Everyone's running marathons and swapping partners. We haven't gone into fairyland. We're in an Olympic village. A slightly bigger problem, though. Helena the Seven, instead of falling madly into Demetrius's arms, because, she's been in love with him this whole time, she thinks he's making a mean joke. She's like, come on, Demetrius, you spent this whole week telling me I was annoying and revolting to you, and now you're spouting poetry at me? What, did you two enemies team up to see who could ridicule me more? And the boys practically get into a fist fight over Helena the Seven. And she's standing there confused, like, wow, you guys are really committing to the bit, aren't you? Just at that moment, Hermia the 10 stumbles on the scene, more confused than ever. Okay, her boyfriend Lysander is alive, yay! But he's shoving her to the side for her average-looking friend? Oh, sorry. I thought my fiancé, who's risking death to elope, would actually be in love with me. No, my mistake. Everyone's confused, the men are fighting. Then, of course, the women get into it, and they start insulting each other, and it's all very funny. There's lots of great Shakespearean insults, but the best one is when Helena the Seven calls Hermia short. Like that's an insult. The men start to get in on it too, and they start yelling at Hermia the 10 to get lost, shawty. And this is not in an endearing way like, what's the fawdy, shawty? Daniel doesn't know what that means. Lysander says, quote, get you gone, you dwarf, you minimus of hindering not grass made, you bead, you acorn.
Harsh stuff. Oberon and Puck have been watching all of this absolute craziness from the bushes. And Oberon tells Puck, no, you need to sort this out right now, Sonny Jim. Or something to that effect. I want to go enjoy seeing my bitch wife making out with a donkey. And I can't do that with all this mess on my hands. Do you think anyone in the corridor heard that?
Absolutely. Somebody just walked by as you said that.
Very long story short, Puck hangs around until the men fall asleep, and then he manages to clean up Lysander's eyes with some special eye cleaning fluid.
Little cold cream, maybe. Pond's cold cream.
What, in your eye?
Not on your eye.
If it's in the eye. I think it's a sort of, like an eye flusher. You're looking at me like you don't have an eye flusher. You seriously telling me you lack an eye flusher? I often thought that you look like you have quite dirty eyes, and now I know. You need to flush your eyes once a week.
You know I put in contacts daily that have saline that flushes them. Daily eye baths.
That means you probably need to do it twice a week to flush your eyes, because that saline's actually very dangerous.
You're British. Do not lecture me on hygiene.
Anyway. He cleans up Lysander's eyes, so we'll go back to being naturally in love with Hermia.
The 10.
The 10. With all the lovers asleep, they'll wake up with everything being okay. So that's that nonsense resolved.
I mean, I don't have a ton of sympathy for Demetrius, but he is still drugged.
Well, the play does explore that issue. Act 4. Now, back to Titania and Bottom. And they're having a good old nuzzle in bed.
She's literally covering her ass. Ha ha! Save me from myself. I'll be right back, everybody.
We've had quite a lot of necrophilia on this show, haven't we?
That's a surprising amount.
Literature's really all about... It's about sex and death, isn't it, literature, per se? So I suppose why not mix it all up? But you think this is bestiality. I don't think this is bestiality because he's all man from the neck down.
Well, quite. She's not interacting just with his dong, presumably.
I think it's like no kissing. I think it's one of those sorts of situations. Like in the bordellos that I frequent.
I think you've seen Pretty Woman too many times.
So Bottom has taken to the lap of luxury like nobody's business, and is ordering servants around like he's as I often say, it's one of my little Danielisms, he's acting like he's king shit of mountain, which is a real place. It's in Alberta. It's popular with tourists.
Or what else is he like?
A power bottom, that's kind of gay slang.
Queer reading, hooray!
On the scene, that's something they say. But here it's his name, so that's the joke. It's not his role in the
Thank you for
Act
explaining
of
it to
Congress.
us. The Act of Congress?
Yeah. Oberon spies on them for a little bit. He doesn't like what he sees, so it got a bit too real.
Single tear rolling down his cheek as an Evanescence song plays in the background.
Exactly. He actually says he feels pity for Titania because this is so humiliating. But you don't believe that?
I don't think he feels pity for her at all. I think the subtext is he's jealous. Not even because she's with another dude, but because she genuinely doesn't even care about him enough to fight with him anymore. Like, she's so wrapped up in Bottom.
It's funny. Every time someone says Bottom, that's funny.
I know, like, her whole life now revolves around feeling up this sexy cryptid. He's Sasquatch. I'll stop.
Oberon's like, this is a lot less fun than I thought it was going to be. So he orders Puck to remove the spell from Titania too, which he does forthwith. Anyway, the de-magic Titania is like, oh, Oberon, I'm glad to see you. I had a horrible dream that I was dating a donkey. And Oberon's like, I assure you this was no dream, madam. Your boyfriend is right there. She looks over at the sleeping Bottom. So what's funny? Bottom is anyway, and screams, and she and Oberon agree to sweep all their previous dysfunction under the rug. After the abject horrors she's Frenched. So
yeah, sorry, babe. I got a little carried away. I got lost in the fog of war on this one. Let's cut back to Duke Theseus and Hippolyta. It's the morning of their wedding. So what are they doing? Are they getting ready? Are they making sure the catering's all in place? No, they're on a pre-wedding hunt in the woods.
Like, you're marrying a warrior queen. Come on.
That's to tire her out enough to get her into the wedding dress in the first place. So they stumble across the 4 lovers sleeping in the forest, and they're like, super weird. Aegeus, Hermia the Ten's father, is out with them for some reason. Like, I'm not sure if they're hunting the runaway lovers or, like, a boar. And he goes, I'm sorry, but is that my daughter at some sort of woodland orgy with her boyfriend, best friend, and her sworn enemy / fiancé?
You just said a right mouthful, haven't you? Yeah, carry on.
So the hunting party wakes up the lovers, who are all real confused, but hey, there's an easy conclusion to all of this. Demetrius is like, Aegeus, I no longer want to marry your daughter. I'm in love with Helena the Seven. So that makes all the arrangements very easy for everyone. And I just think it's not fair that these idiots go to the woods and manage to solve all their problems. Whenever I go to the woods, all that ever happens is some creep tries to sell me oxy. Duke Theseus says to Aegeus, listen, f***o, it's my wedding day. You are not going to stir up any more trouble by murdering your daughter, especially when everything has resolved itself so neatly. These idiots deserve a marriage in the suburbs filled with resentment and unrealized potential, just like mine. So we are going to have a triple wedding. Capiche?
Cut to Bottom, who has been de-donkeyed. He's now stumbling around the woods, and he's feeling a little bit overhung, isn't he? He's come off a bender. He's got some problems, something like that. On the plus side, he's like, oh, my fascinating dream is so deep and intriguing that, quote, I will get Peter Quince to write a ballad of this dream. It shall be called Bottom's Dream, because it hath no bottom.
Oh, God, my artistry has no limits.
He is funny, and I like Bottom. I like all the mechanicals. So, speaking of which, they're all in the woods looking for Bottom.
That's where men go to look for Bottom, isn't it?
Very good.
Sorry.
Yeah, that is true. That is
Sorry.
a woods thing, isn't it? They don't care about Bottom in particular, but they don't have an understudy for the Pyramus role. So, we've got to perform for the Duke today. They need Bottom.
And if they're going to make it in time for the Duke's wedding, they better haul ass. It's diminishing returns at this point.
They run into him almost immediately. whatever happened the other night, let's not talk about it.
Yeah, I would certainly never tell anyone about my trip to Fairyland. Like, how humiliating would it be to admit that you've been psychologically tortured by flora, fauna, and Merryweather? That shit goes in the vault.
Bottom bounces back, as bottoms do, like a toddler after a nap, and he immediately starts micromanaging the play. Listen up, actor playing Thisbe. Make sure you're wearing clean underwear. Lion, don't cut your nails. We need them to look like claws. And no one eat garlic.
Oh good, he's back. So we're now in Act 5, and we cut to the big triple wedding. They all get married, and everyone is very happy, and now it's time for the Duke to choose the post-wedding entertainment. He goes through a few options, but stops dead when he sees the Mechanicals advertised play, and he's like, what is this hot mess? And why does it have a 12-drink minimum?
Right, it's time for the Mechanicals to shine. We see a play within a play.
And it's a big moment for the Mechanicals. They're really putting their ass on the line.
Yep. It's a little smile that you give me afterwards. You're like really proud of yourself, aren't you? Yeah, anyway, whatever. The play is like, it's a so bad it's good sort of thing, isn't it? Which I love. That's my favourite sort of thing that I like. Of the things I like, that's the best. So Snout comes out, he's like, I'm a wall, but don't worry, I'm not a real wall, I'm just an actor playing a wall, and it's kind of funny things like that.
And Snug's like, hi, I'm a lion, but not a real lion, so ladies don't get scared, okay? Because I won't really hurt anyone. And the whole audience is like, yeah, we got it. We know how plays work.
I've seen some really funny versions of this where, so there's this line, oh, kiss me through the hole of this vile wall, I kiss the wall's hole, not your lips at all. A lot of interpretations have Snout as the wall, it being like his bum crack. They're like shouting through his bum crack. And that's funny.
Maybe Bottom should have played the wall then.
Oh, there we go, yeah, I like that.
The play within a play bit is surprisingly long. It's funny, but it's long. When it's over, Theseus is like, well, that was stupid. But hey, at least we found a way to pass the time before we can reasonably excuse ourselves to go have sex. Hey, let's have another 2 full weeks of celebrations. And then everyone cheers and departs to go get nasty with each other. The fairies show up after all the humans have gone to bed, and Titania and Oberon bless the house. And they imply that their marriage is doing a lot better, at least for now. Oberon's like, come on babe, let's go have a steamy makeup fight. We then end on Puck, and he gives a little apology to us, the audience, by saying, don't worry, none of this was real. So these are the most famous lines in A Midsummer Night's Dream. Quote, if we shadows have offended, think but this and all is mended, that you have but slumbered here while these visions did appear. And this weak and idle theme, no more yielding but a dream. So in short, it was all a bit of silly fun. Look, this Summer Night's Dream was mid. It says so right in the title. Everyone shut up and go home. The end. So, would you like some casting?
Boy, would I.
Usually, when there's a production of this, everyone focuses on the sort of summer element. It's very light, it's very, warm-hearted. And they never really focus on the night or the dream element. So I was thinking, this should be a Bob Fosse movie. Does not have to be necessarily a musical, but he does this sort of weird, magical, grotesque, realist, surrealist, seedy, glamorous, comedic, pathetic stuff. And this show needs all of that. And I think we need a similarly versatile actor for Bottom. So I'm going to choose this great star who almost made it, Michael York. Because
I'm Michael York and I'm playing Bottom.
But he's a really good physical comedian. He can play really posh or kind of trash. For Titania and Oberon, a famous dueling married couple, we need Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton. And for Puck, we need a short but incredibly charismatic guy, Bob Hoskins, man.
Bob Hoskins is Puck.
That'd be really funny.
And Bob Hoskins is a sort of Cockney guy. Oh, I'm Robin Goodfellow.
You don't think that he has range? He's played King Lear. He's a Shakespearean actor.
Well, I know. I'm not saying he's a bad actor. I'm just saying...
He's a great actor.
I know. I'm not... I just feel like What? Let's have Arnold Schwarzenegger playing Puck. It's like that.
And now for our segment, Bad Goodreads Reviews. This is the worst book I have ever read in my 73 years of life. My granddaughter loved it. I am glad she died in a car crash last week. If I had seen her face after reading this trash, I would have killed her myself. 1 star. That is clearly meant to be a joke, but it was one of the top comments, and I thought, my god. It was very good and interesting to read, and it is suitable for 6+ to read. I think everyone should read it because they might enjoy it. 1 star. 6+. Okay, should we move on to some analysis?
Yep.
Should we start where we always start, which is the form of the play?
I would very much like to, yes.
I mean, as with most comedies, this is a slightly conservative genre in that it's all about restoring order. Apart from Hermia, the 10, getting what she wants, it's only because the Duke is actually okay with it, and then her father has to relent, so it still relies on male authority.
I mean, yeah, comedy is a conservative genre, but it's got the extra thing of Demetrius being drugged, and the play ends like that. That's the kind of hanging thread. There's a kind of paradox there that it's ostensibly about returning to order, but really this is something a bit different that's happened, and that's, I think, one of the concerns of the play.
But even with the disruption of order that happens, the fairies apologize at the end and say it didn't really happen, so don't worry about it.
Yeah, they're kind of just cauterizing that loose phrase to mix metaphors slightly.
Yeah, there are a few things. I said it's conservative, and it is, but it does also undercut that a little bit. So we have Hippolyta at the beginning, this unwieldy woman living life on her own means, forced into marriage as a means to control her and put her in a more domestic role. And we have the same thing with Titania at the end, being controlled and going like, okay, honey, you can take the kid. I'm just so glad I'm not making out with a donkey anymore. But we do have this idea, both of those women have been playing away. And Oberon knows Titania's been playing away. And that doesn't really seem to be that material. He's not like, I am a cuckold, or, it doesn't seem to affect his masculinity at all.
It's a conservative world in which transgressions can somehow be reabsorbed into the system.
Hermia, the 10, she gets what she wants only because men have allowed it. But Demetrius does not get what he wants at the end, but he kind of doesn't care. I actually feel really bad for him at the end. You have somebody who you hate, and you are drugged into thinking you love it. Like, that's a horrifying idea.
Yeah.
That's a really upsetting thought.
Hence Puck's apology, I suppose.
But so there is a lot of, we'll talk about this later, but a lot of like gender play in this where it does undercut some of that. I also kept losing track of time, or I thought the timing in this was really weird, and I think that's maybe deliberate, because there's this idea that if you go into the fairy realm, time moves differently. And I was laughing because the humans, kept randomly falling asleep. And I was like, are you falling asleep for really short intervals? Does time work differently here? Because most of the action in this takes place over just one night. And I thought it was deliberately maybe a bit disorienting.
Definitely, yeah. Also, it is a kind of narrative cop-out, isn't it? Oh, I'm just going to go sleep now while other things take place around me.
While we're constantly stumbling on each other. Again, like, if this weren't set in the fairy world, I'd say that was really sloppy. Yeah. They're constantly in this huge wood, like, oh, I'm lost. Oops, I've stumbled on you again.
Yeah, it's funny for that reason.
Because it's the fairy realm, you get the sense that maybe they're being steered. There's a mischievousness even in the woods itself that is constantly steering them towards each other.
Yeah, the improbability as well is just funny, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Going off of the sort of humiliation of Titania and their fighting, kink seems to play, there's an undercurrent. If it doesn't necessarily play a role, there's an undercurrent of it. And the two of them fight a lot in a way that kind of seems to be bordering on foreplay. I don't have evidence for this other than the strength of my feelings, but it does seem like something they do. Like, oh, we're in this period of the cycle.
Yeah.
There's also some critics who have read that scene where Helena the Seven is first chasing Demetrius through the woods, being like, love me, damn it, and he's like, go away.
I'm your spaniel.
And she says basically, you can abuse me like your dog as long as I can stay near you. And a lot of people have read this as really pathetic, like, girl, have some self-respect. other people have read this as a kink. Like, it's some sort of BDSM game to her. You know, tell me I'm worthless. Call me a dirty pig. I'm such a naughty girl in need of a spanking, right? She's a freak in the streets and a freak in the sheets.
Yeah, I was thinking that about this idea of, like, fantasy and reality, because it's the same with the play within a play, right? And also with Demetrius's ultimate... How are we going to... We've not really settled on how to describe that, but being cursed,
fate.
Or affliction.
His
fate, yeah. That Shakespeare's kind of like, does it count if it's not real? Yes. And that's the same with, like, BDSM is kind of the opposite, isn't it? That it is ultimately play. It's, like, not real.
Yeah.
But again,
you do get something very tangible and real out of it.
But not the thing that it's purporting to be.
Right, yeah.
So I suppose, again, it's this idea that the kind of kink element plays into that idea of reality and fantasy interacting in strange and surprising ways, or fantasy itself having a kind of reality.
But even the Duke and Hippolyta have this tense courtship and marriage predicated on him physically besting her and possibly even really hurting her in battle. He says, I won you with wounds or something like that. So every one of these marriages, apart from Lysander and Hermia, has a sort of like violent or BDSM or sort of kinky undercurrent. There's something in this play that's really quite...
Could be weird. Could be dodgy.
Could be dodgy. Could be a sense of play. What about the names in this? Because I know that when I teach this to students, they really struggle with the Hermia Helena thing. And then we have Hippolyta on top of that. That's easily, I think, the most confusing part of the play. And I wondered, is that the point, with all the lovers running around after each other or swapping who they're in love with? At least when you read it, it's a hindrance to your comprehension.
Yeah.
On stage, it's not really a problem.
No, not at all. Sometimes people say that about other plays, don't they? That they're actually meant to be read, but this does not.
This is not meant to be read at all.
Although, I mean, it heightens the farce. Bottom snug flute.
Yeah, those are great names that show the sort of homeliness and rusticness, you know, the common nature of the actors.
Also that Englishness as well.
Yeah, they're very, you know, that classic Greek name, Nick Bottom.
Nicholas is a Greek.
Well, I know.
Bad example. Come on, bad example. But yeah, you're right. But yeah, so we've got all these Greek names of the figures in power, English names of the rude mechanicals, and then obviously the fairies are sort of kind of on their own crazy thing. Oberon, I think, comes from some like medieval poem. It is a sort of cultural hodgepodge, isn't it? In that classic,
very much.
Like Nietzsche says that about Shakespeare, doesn't he? That this is like a mad synthesis of tastes that classical people wouldn't have understood. And I love that about this play.
And again, it works because we have this fairyland setting. The fact that Bottom is a hybrid for most of the play, you kind of forgive a lot of that because you're like, well, it's fairyland, it's worlds colliding. Who cares?
Yeah,
You don't poke holes in that too much. So he really has made quite the loophole for himself.
No, yeah, if you are going to have a crazy hybrid, involve crazy hybrids in your play, and then it'll seem clever and metatextual.
Why Midsummer? Like, you could set this at any time. Why is this a Midsummer Night's Dream?
Yeah, I don't know.
I didn't know if it was to maximize lightness and show that this is all in good fun, but that's the shortest night of the year, and yet it's all set at night. And this is also the turning point where things get increasingly darker in the year. So I was like, is there an analysis to be done there that this is all in good fun, but when we get back to the real world, things are going to get serious again and darker?
Yeah, it's like a moment of... A bit like Twelfth Night, isn't it? That idea of... Not Twelfth Night, the play less than the kind of Christmas period. It's like a moment in which crazy stuff can happen.
And it's a period of transition back to normality or something.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got to talk about the child trafficking thing, along with the Orientalism and colonialism stuff, because there is an undercurrent of this. What the hell was going on with Titania and Oberon stealing the young Indian boy and then fighting over him? And are there sort of like pedophilic undertones in this?
Yeah, I don't know why they would specifically go for that boy.
If there are any Shakespeare scholars out there who could shed light on this feels like it really doesn't fit. This is so out of place. There must be subtext that we're missing.
Titania does that whole bit where she says, this boy's mother was a votress of my order and we used to hang out together in India loads.
Yeah.
And talk all the time. And they talk about ships and stuff passing, trading, and there's a kind of colonial bit.
They reference racial difference in this. Not a ton, but enough, because they talk about Jews, Roma, people from India. But but it feels a bit like seasoning, right? There's not really any commentary or malice in it. So I just wonder, like, why include all of this stuff and then we move on and we never address it again?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Any Shakespeare scholars who are listening, we've sort of reached the limit here. This play is beaten the band a little bit, where I just don't know how to interpret this.
Yeah. Also, the idea of love versus reason that Bottom brings up. Is it like saying that they can never go together, or can we have, like, reasonable forms of love?
Well, exactly, and that's what the play, I think, unpicks, especially the ridiculous passion of the flower that's never explored to its logical conclusion. Does it ever wear off? And if it doesn't wear off, do you even want that? Will your partner get sick of it with that sort of obsessive young love feeling? That, so I think the play does talk about these things.
Yeah, point to it at least.
Yes. All right, so here's some advice. When you have multiple characters in a text who have similar names that are hard to track, try to give yourself little mnemonic devices as early on as possible to help you remember them. So for this play, I remembered Hermia because her name is like Hermes, the god of speed and travel, and she's the one who's trying to run away. And I remembered Helena because that's an ironic play on Helen of Troy. The more you repeat these little mnemonic devices, the easier the text becomes to follow. Okay, so now our clue to the next episode. Now, last season, we read The Trial, which had a big court case with the deck already stacked against the protagonist. I'd like another one of those, an unfair, inscrutable court case. Now, despite the textual shortness, our next installment is going to be a two-parter, and it's going to have a very clear, obvious division between the episodes. And this trial is going to take place in part 1. What are we reading? Thank you very much for tuning in. If you would like to hear outtakes from this episode, along with listener letters and other fun things like our catch-up session on bad Goodreads and our bad literary sex awards dramatic readings, please tune in next Wednesday for our Bookends episode, which will have lots of little extra bits for you. And until then, happy Midsummer to all of you.
That's my shtick.
Oh,
You're
sorry.
That's my bit. You're taking my bit.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to step on your toes here.
No, still carry on. It's fine. It's too late.
Well, I already forgot to say follow us on social media.
Yeah.
Oops.
Follow us through an Athenian forest.
Yeah, I was going to say the world's topsy-turvy, upside down. I say thank you very much, and may God bless you. Whatever the Daniel says every time. What do you say?
Don't know. Don't even. It just comes out.
All right. Well, take it.
Sort of like projectile vomiting.
All right. Say goodbye then.
Bye. See you later, everyone. Say goodbye then.
Sorry, I turned into a fishwife for a minute.
Could be a character from next week's text.
Oi!
Thanks for listening to Save Me From My Shelf. Our music is The Overture to Don Giovanni by Mozart, and cover art is by Catherine Wu. Our thanks to Aston University's Centre for Critical Inquiry into Society and Culture for funding the startup of this podcast. Contact us at savemefrommyshelf@gmail.com or at smfms_podcast on Twitter. And do not, I'm going to remind you, do not forget to rate, review, and subscribe. Do not forget. Thank you.